those emotions.
Everybody, John Ponick with the Mojave Valley Daily News. We are here for our regular Wednesday afternoon segment Q&A. Today, very exciting. I've been pushing this all over the place, so I'm sure everybody knows who this man is, but Leo Biasiucci. How you doing, sir?
Good, how are you?
Good
to see you.
Nice seeing you. Leo is our state legislator, one of our state legislators from this area. Let me go through his bio really quick. Leo is a member of the Arizona House of Representatives, representing District 5. He assumed office in 2019, won re-election in November of 2020. His current term ends at the January 8th, 2023, at which time I believe he will either be governor or president, one of the two. Leo is...
I'm ready for that.
Well, here's why I disagree. You went in 2019, and if there is a Rookie of the Year award for state legislators,
Right.
You would have won that thing running away.
I appreciate that.
We know that there was so many bills that you introduced and so many bills that you worked hard to get passed through. It was obvious how much you care about. You're from Lake Havasu.
Yep.
How much you care about this urban, rural areas.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
I appreciate that.
We got a lot to talk about.
Yes.
What I might do is we'll get as far as we can, and if I need to get you back,
I'll come back.
I will beg
We're done
for
with
you to come
session,
back.
so
Yes, you got time.
some more
now,
time
right?
in my hands, yeah.
But you're still running your business down there?
Yes, still doing
Okay,
that.
so you have a driving school. a
Yes,
driving
absolutely
academy.
right.
Okay. All right, so let's go through some of the things that
Sure.
went through and got passed this year. The first one, you got a $46 million to repave Highway 95 in Lake Havasu, Bullhead City, Mojave Valley, and Fort Mojave.
Yeah, which was a huge win for us out here. I mean, there's being born and raised here, so I've seen the highways. I've seen them get to where they are now, where you have potholes and areas where you lose your dentures if you're driving too
Yes.
fast. And but I think they should realize that how hard it was to actually even get this through. So every year they come at you and they say, the budget's here, so is there something that you want? They ask every member if there's something they need. And so this was my number one ask. I said, I know what Highway 95 is like up here in Bullhead, Fort Mojave. I know what it's like in Havasu. And so I said, I want a full repaving of this highway. And when you look back, it was 20 years since they've done like a real repave. Mm-hmm. And so when I first introduced this bill, it actually died in committee. So it was in the Appropriations Committee. Went through Transportation first, passed 9-0.
That was last year. Correct?
Last year, yes. Okay. Which COVID happened, and
Right.
that kind of, we did a skinny budget. Mm-hmm. This year I brought it again. Passed Transportation 9-0. Everybody was in support. Gets their appropriations, which if people don't understand, appropriations is they're the ones that decide the money goes where it goes. Mm-hmm. So you have $46 million for this bill. They say yes or no. And so you have to pass through appropriations. Gina, my seatmate, Cobb, is actually the chairwoman of that committee. So
that helps.
It helped a little bit, you would think. But it actually died 3-7 in appropriations. And so people, and this is why I'm telling the stories, because on that committee you have a lot of metro legislators, right? Great state of Maricopa, which a lot of people talk about. And so a lot of them don't understand the rural highways, the roads, and they came to me and said during committee, oh, your roads are fine, you have nothing to worry about out there, why do you even need all this money? They went through a report from 2016 and it showed our roads being in good, fair, and poor condition, about 70%. Well, that's 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. I said, have you been out there at all?
They haven't improved.
Right, and they haven't improved. I said, have any of you been out there at all? Like, well, no. So I said, okay. So I came back one weekend, came to Bullhead, I came to Havasu, and I literally was on the side of the highway taking pictures of the highway, just close-up shots. Went back to Phoenix the weeks later, went back to committee, gave them all the photos, and I said, "You're telling me you're okay driving on the street?" Needless to say, it passed 9-0 that time around.
Right on. Good.
But so people know, I mean, this is going to be a full repaving from Bullhead City, Laughlin Bridge, all the way down to Fort Mojave, and then in Havasu from the Pilot to Sarah Park.
You said Fort Mojave Valley.
Mojave Valley,
all the way
right. All the way down to
the bread.
the cross of,
Yeah.
where things AMP.
I have to turn on that road. You
Yes.
think I'd remember what it's Corright.
There you go, Corright, yeah.
Okay.
So it's going to cover that whole area. Now it's going to be up to ADOT, and then I'm hoping they get along with, or they get a hold of the city officials, figure out what they want to do, how they want to do it.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've had that discussion with Mayor Brady or any of our county board of supervisors,
Right.
but we already struggle with the travel,
Right.
The traffic
Right.
on these roads.
Right.
I mean, is there some plan in place? Is this going to be an overnight thing where they're working?
No.
or-
I mean, that's going to be all to them. So, I mean, our job is obviously to get the money there, secure that funding, and I think it's best up to the city officials and ADOT to figure the rest part out. What's best for the community? Do you want it at nighttime? Do you want concrete? Do you want asphalt? Because there's prices difference as well.
Sure.
Asphalt, you're looking at about $800,000 a mile if you're looking at both sides of the road being repaved. Concrete's about double. So then the question is, are there areas that don't need to be fixed that have maybe been fixed? Do they want to do concrete here? It's going to be that I want to keep it up to City Council, Mayor Brady, ADOT, because like I said, they know what's best. The money's there though to do
So you
the
guys
entire
figure it out from
stretch.
here.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
good.
hopefully, but I mean, talk about a huge. I mean, 20 years to me. I mean, that's the part that's it's people I don't think know that how hard it is to get stuff passed in the legislature, let alone funding for rural Arizona,
Wait.
because it's such a fight.
So you don't mean everyone's just sitting around being friendly and ready to help each other?
Even my own Republicans voted me down on this bill initially.
That's great.
But a huge win for us. I'm super proud to get that
Congratulations,
through.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I know that we can use it, that's for sure.
absolutely.
Another one I thought was awesome, House Bill 2889, a
Yeah.
bill that now requires all child sex crimes and trafficking to be straight time, no parole or early release for the first offense, and adds life in prison for the second offense.
Yeah, this was a 2-year process, and to get this bill through, and it really happened with the Epstein situation, right? I think everybody kind of had their eyes on the Epstein when that happened, and I looked into that and I said, okay, here's a guy who has ruined the lives of thousands of women, who knows how many, right? Underage women, especially. They were young girls, 13, 14-year-olds he was bringing to his island. And I looked and I saw that his first time he got arrested, he was only in prison for, I think, 18 months. It was something really minimal. And he was able to go home every day. He was able to go home, go to work. He had to spend the night. And I said, is this happening in Arizona? Are these the same kind of laws? So I go through the books and I read, going through all the language. And lo and behold, you had stuff like if you were producing child pornography, right? You were literally producing pornography, child pornography, distributing. It was the same thing. You can get 10 years, early release as possible. And I said to myself, how is this possible that these people have ruined the lives of children, right? These children will never be the same. I mean, you have,
100%.
right? There's no, I mean, you'll have psychological issues, you'll have therapy for the rest of your life, and they're out in a year.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes zero sense to me. So I said, okay, but I also have the belief of everybody makes mistakes. Everybody should have the right to a second chance. Now, I talked to the AG's office, and they said these individuals who do these crimes, sex trafficking and all this pedophilia stuff, 0% are one time, right? So they're all repeat offenders.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
And expecting they're going to go to prison for 5 years and be rehabilitated is ridiculous.
Right, but I wanted to have that option to say, look, the first time it's no chance of parole. You're not getting out. So if it's a 10-year sentence, 20 years,
doing 10 years.
straight time. There's no more early release. Second time, you're going to prison for life, no chance of parole. Now, the reason this was important is because when I talked to victims when I was making this bill, their first thing to me for them saying thank you was a lot of times victims don't come out and speak because they know they're getting out, right? If it's their uncle, brother, friend, family, they know that they have a chance to get out in a year, 2 years, whatever the case. They said now you're going to have so many more people come out and speak up and say something because they know they're not going to come back. Because a lot of these times when I talk to the AG's office, they say they threaten the victim, right? I'm going to kill you if you say anything. If
I'll
you
be
speak
right
up.
back out.
Right, exactly. I'm going to be right back out. You better not say a word. And so they stay quiet. It's unfortunate that it took this long for something like this to finally happen. We're the first in the country to have laws this strict on the books.
tough.
If there are people, I'm all about criminal justice reform. I truly believe that we need to figure out ways to keep people out of prison. If there are people that need to be in prison for life, these are the ones that need to be.
And there are, yes,
there
for
are.
sure.
Yeah.
Actually, we had a story a couple days ago of a guy that this was the third time that he was arrested. He
Right.
served 10 years, he served something else, and then this last one, he had a plea deal where he got 5 years
That,
for
and,
his third offense. Yeah.
and that's the stuff that just makes me sick.
Yeah,
It makes me sick because they shouldn't be out in public
All
at
right,
all.
before we move on, we got
Yeah.
a lot of people talking about paving roads down in the valley and all that. All those things are county. We're talking strictly about Highway 95. That's managed by ADOT, but all those side roads and Vanderslice and all that stuff, that's county. You really need to hit up your board of supervisors.
They got some money.
who got some money.
They have millions. I'm
Yes.
just saying.
And they are looking for something to do with it.
That's
so
right.
give them a call. If
That's
you're down
right.
in Fort Mojave Valley, that's Ron Gould. If you're up here in Bullhead, that is Hildy. So give them a call. All right. House Bill 2111, bill that now makes Arizona Second Amendment sanctuary state. So I think we understand that.
Right.
But I'd also like to ask you about Tucson
Sure.
has their city resolution, whatever, fighting it. We're lucky enough in Bullhead City that they've done the same thing, so has the county. Is this window dressing, or is
Yeah.
this something that you think could really stand up to?
No, I think it's window dressing. I mean, they're trying to make a political point, but it's not gonna fly. Obviously, I mean, the cities can't be determining what they want to do and not do in regards to the Constitution and what's in law, and they know that. That's when they made a resolution. It wasn't a law. I mean, they could go to the ballot and they could try to pass something, but then the courts are going to challenge it, and I made it specific with this bill to make sure it was constitutional. And the reason I did that was because I knew that there could be some cities that would challenge it, like a Tucson or a Flagstaff, that they don't believe in gun rights or whatnot. But I actually took the language from Jerry Brown in California. So Jerry Brown in 2017, he wrote a bill. The state of California did. He signed it into law, which allowed sanctuary cities for illegals. And if you remember, Tucson tried to put a law as well on the ballot, and it failed miserably. It was like 70-30 because they were trying to be a sanctuary city. California actually passed, and it actually got challenged at the Ninth Circuit, got upheld, and the Supreme Court didn't even look at it. So language was constitutional. I literally took that language, stripped the sanctuary city part for illegals, and put the Second Amendment on it. And so it's constitutional. Tucson, they have no chance of trying to push back. I mean, and I tell people, look, it's obviously they're just trying to get a headline, but
Well, let me ask you this. The bill says specifically, we will not do something that is constitutionally illegal or doesn't follow the Constitution.
yeah, all it says is if the federal government changes the gun law and it's not in line with the Arizona Constitution, we're not going to play.
Okay.
So
But the Arizona Constitution is strictly in line with our U.S.
correct.
Constitution.
And that could change. Well, no, it's a little different. I mean, they're like our Second Amendment actually in the Arizona Constitution is a little stronger than the national Constitution, to tell you the truth. So my bill is just saying if it's not in line with our laws in Arizona, we don't have to play ball, because people forget that the 10th Amendment's there for a reason, right? Their founding fathers knew that the states should have the control, ultimate control.
Their own control.
Their own control. It's not the federal government that's telling you what to do and how to do it. And this is why this bill is so important. I should never have to do this, because you would think the Constitution is the law of the land. But you have an administration that has said we're going to ban AR-15s, we're going to ban high-capacity magazines, all these things, and I just don't think it's their duty or right to do that, in my opinion. I think it's up to the states to figure that out, and this is why I wrote the bill, to just make it clear, like, look, it's up to us. If our state laws are going to change in the future, then so be it. But right now, that's what should matter, is what our Second Amendment is in the Arizona Constitution.
And Tucson says that their resolution is that they are going to act, proclaims that federal laws, orders, and acts that regulate firearms in a manner that is consistent with the requirements of the U.S. Constitution will remain in full force and effect within city limits. So what they're basically saying, and I think both of you are saying the same thing, is that we are going to follow the Constitution. They're saying, we are going to follow we're going to follow the U.S. Constitution. You're saying we're going to follow the state constitution, which is even a little bit tighter, in
Right.
your words, than the federal Constitution. To me, it just seems like somebody trying to stand up and go, oh, you're not going to tell me what to do. You know what? We're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it on a city
Right.
scale.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
we did the
and
same
I'll
thing.
make that clear, though. We're not saying we're not going to listen to the federal constitution, because we still are with this bill. We're saying if the federal government does something to change the law
Yeah.
that's against
That's
both
true.
those constitutions, it doesn't fly.
We're
with
not
us.
gonna
Right,
follow
right,
it.
right.
Right.
So
We're
I just
not
want to
gonna
make that
enforce
clear. It's not
Right.
that we're saying no to the federal constitution. They're saying that the federal laws matter, which I will say this. In a debate that I had with the Democrat legislator about this bill, she said, how dare you tell the feds what to do? Like, they're the law of the land, which, let's just pretend that argument is a good one. Let's just say that. But I came back to her and I said, well, how about marijuana? You can't just pick and choose,
Right.
because the
'Cause
states,
it's still federally,
it's still federally
not
legal.
illegal.
So for you to say that you can't tell us what to do, or you can't tell the feds what to do when it's convenient for you, I mean, just
You know, that's
that
a good
argument
argument.
is unfortunate.
I
don't
told you
agree.
this guy was smart. I knew I didn't have a chance. All right, Lance, it says you're supposed
Yeah.
to go to the Parkway, which is city. Correct. He's talking about the Vanderslice Road. The Vanderslice is quite a bit east of the highway, Highway 95.
Right.
It is, again, that is county for most of it. When it crosses into the city at the Parkway, then yes, that part is city. But either way, it's not regulated by the state. I better ask you this before Ann's head explodes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So let me start with this. You have $12 million for election integrity, which includes new ballot technology and hand counting measures. Ann wants to know what Leo will do specifically to protect our voting rights.
Yeah. So it's a really good question. I mean, one thing we're doing with that 12 million, and I'll explain that. So the ballots have been the same pretty much forever. There's really been no change, and which is kind of interesting to think about, right? You want to make sure our ballots are secure and our elections are secure, right? This is probably one of the most best freedoms, greatest freedoms we have as this country is our right to vote. And you go to Afghanistan and they're literally military individuals in line. They have iris scans. I mean, their process is beyond what we do here. So this right that we have is incredible, and we need to make sure it's protected. And so one thing we're doing is the ballot. We're changing. We have money in there to change them to. It's almost like currency. So they have the hologram logos in there now. They have microchips that can be read. So we have made the ballot now really, you can't counterfeit this thing if you even tried. So that's one thing that we're doing. Another thing is the mail-in ballot. I mean, this was a pushback that we got from some people regarding Pebble. So the early voting, and all we were saying is, because what was happening is there was no checks and balances on who was getting a ballot. So I had people tell me from Mojave County, like, I got 9 ballots in the mail. Only 2 of us live here, which I get it. I mean, it's cleaning up the voter rolls is not an easy task. Mm-hmm. And so all we did is we changed the law to say, if you haven't voted in 2 consecutive cycles, so 2 elections, so 4 years, because you could have a primary or a midterm, we send a letter out to you and says, hey, are you still there? If you're still there, just check yes, throw it back. It's prepaid. If you don't reply, we remove you from that list. You're still registered to vote, but you're removed from the mail-in ballot unless you come back and say, hey, I'm still here, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. These are the things we're trying to do to protect, because whether fraud happened or not, we don't know, right? You have claims of this happening, that happening. I sat through that hearing. Senator Borelli was there as well for 13, 14 hours. You had a lot of people turn in affidavits claiming there were issues under oath. But this is why we're doing the audit. I mean, people, you can be for the audit, against the audit. Whatever comes out of it, I'm just glad we took a look, right? Because if nothing comes out of it, at least we looked and we said, hey, nothing's there, but let's fine-tune some things. I mean, we haven't done an audit in, I don't think ever, like a real audit before. If we find
Certainly
something, not to this extent, right? Whether, like I said, whether you agree with it or not, bottom line is we need to figure out, nothing has been changed for a long time. There are problems that we have. We need to fix them. I mean, it's 2021. I mean, the fact that we're even having these issues now, to me, is crazy. So amongst some other things, I mean, those are some things that we're going to do right away that are just regardless of what happens in the audit. Mm-hmm. We're making sure the ballot's changed. We're making sure we're cleaning up voter rolls. Dead people, we're making sure they're taken off, because that's an issue we're having where people have been passed away for years and they're still showing up on our voter rolls. Again, that shouldn't be happening.
Have to be purged. Yeah.
Right, but we have a communication issue. So a lot of things we're doing to fix that.
Is there a standard for purging the voter rolls? Is there a every year or every 5 years? Or
That is a good question. I know that goes to the recorder's office, and they handle all that. They're supposed to communicate
don't
with.
mention her right
I
now.
think
We
with
got some issues.
Yeah, okay. But they're supposed to go through there, and I know like the morgue is supposed to there's supposed to be a lot of communication that's not happening.
Okay.
That needs to start happening, and we're changing the laws to say, hey, look. This should never happen again. This questioning of our
It's
elections.
embarrassing. Worldwide, it's embarrassing. That
It is, and it's tough because I understand both sides. I mean, people are angry, but for me, my position has always been at least take a look. Regardless of what happens, at least we took the time, and we're not turning into a third world country. We're just going to keep everything secret and take it for what it is, whether you like it or not, kind of thing. So
Good. All right. I'm going to get through a couple here. If
Sure.
you got something you want to add.
Yeah.
The $25 million to complete a veterans home medical center in Lake Havasu or Kingman.
Bullhead could be on there too. So I'll explain this one real quickly. This is indigent housing for veterans. So it's a medical center and a housing. It's kind of a combo.
Mm-hmm.
They have them in one in Tucson, one in Phoenix, one in Yuma, I believe one in Flagstaff. So there hasn't been one in the Northwest yet. So this one we finally got it done. Senator Borelli has been fighting hard for this for
That's
years.
weird, really?
I know, right?
That
Being a
Marine?
veteran, I feel like he's probably want to live there at some point in his life.
Not for a long time.
No, he's not done yet. He's a bulldog
tough, for sure.
But this is talk about veterans. We love our veterans here, right? Mojave County, we love everything about them. The sacrifices they gave to give us the freedoms we have. The least we can do is protect them, or excuse me, the least we can do is take care of them towards the end of their life.
Mm-hmm.
And so this center is kind of like a mix of a VA clinic and a housing unit. So talk about a lot of jobs. I mean, 100 bed facility, talking about nurses. And so this is a phenomenal thing. The feds will actually pay 2/3 of that bill. So we put in $25 million from the state. The feds come in with the rest, and then it'll be run every year by the feds. So now the money's there. They're just got to pick a spot, whether it's going to be Kingman, Bullhead, Havasu. That's where the next decision is going to be made.
Bullhead. We need it in Bullhead.
Yeah.
We have three awesome legislators that are up there fighting against, like you said, the great state
Right.
of Maricopa. So I expect it to end up here.
I will say
Well,
this.
it's going to end up in Havasu.
I will
isn't
say
it?
this.
'Cause
No.
two years in
I know.
Havasu.
No. Well,
that's
I will say
true.
this. Kingman already has the Jerry Ambrose Center. They
Yeah.
have a couple other centers, and they're having some great stuff in Kingman. For me, I think it should be between Bullhead, because Havasu and Bullhead don't have anything in regards to kind of like a VA-ish center.
Not
so,
to that scale. I mean, our Christina Stamper one is going to have like 7 beds or 9 beds or something
right.
for veterans.
Nothing close to this number.
Sure.
But either way, what a big win for
that's
our
awesome.
veterans here.
As a veteran, thank you. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that for sure.
Maybe you'll be there. Who knows?
Not too
If
long.
your wife gets rid of you.
Getting close. Who are you? Critical race theory banned in all of our K through 12 public schools. I know that was a
This would
big
be
one.
a hot topic. Yeah. This is one where I'll touch on really quickly. We don't like to get involved a lot of times in local school boards and what they do. This curriculum just kind of kept showing up, its ugly face everywhere we looked, and it's just, in my opinion, it has no place in our schools. I mean, if this is what you want to teach at home, so be it. I mean, that's your choice. To teach this in our schools, I just don't think is right and should be done. So we had to step in, unfortunately, because we had some schools that were looking to do it, and I just tell people all the time, as a parent, as a citizen of the community, you should go to school board meetings, as boring as they are, as long as they are, because I've been to a few. As much I love my schools.
Carrie Faring,
And Carrie's, I
sitting
know
over there.
they're a little boring once in a while, Carrie.
Not ours.
But it's important for the public to get out there, right? I mean, it's important for them to go and speak and figure out be involved. What are our children being taught, and then speak up. I mean, it happened in Bullhead. I mean, there was kind of this CRT situation. Parents showed up. They spoke their mind, and I think it might have changed the minds of the school board to whether they want to implement this or not. That's so important to do, and I tell parents to do that.
Yeah,
as
and
much
that's
as they can.
something we've talked about before. I don't know that it affected it this time, but
Right.
you don't know until you're there and there's actually a vote.
Absolutely right.
But we've talked quite a bit about doing that at city council meetings, board of supervisors meetings. Those things, go up and make yourself heard.
Yeah.
You go to these things and there's 3 or 4 people there, and
Right.
then it passes and they go,
And they get angry, right?
man,
I didn't know about
you
this.
weren't there.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
Mandatory masks and COVID-19 vaccines banned in K through 12 and universities.
Yeah, and that one I'll touch quickly too. I've always been a believer of, it's up to you to figure out what you want for your health, right? Your health decisions should be on you. If you want to wear a mask, wear one. If you want the vaccine, get it. I mean, I have nothing wrong with that at all. I don't like that they were trying to make it mandatory for our children to get vaccines or a mask. And I'll say this why, because people said, well, how about measles? How about mumps? You have to get that. That's actually not true. You can sign a waiver as a parent. You can say, I don't want them to take this, and they still can go to school. It should be the same with COVID, right? The fact that this COVID was put on a whole different pedestal was kind of weird to me. And I know a lot of us at the legislature, we said, we have no problem if you want to take the vaccine and do what you need to do, but to make it mandatory is nothing we've ever done before in history. We've never done that. And in the quarantining stuff, usually you quarantine if you're sick in the past. So this is why we're like, look, we have to let the decisions be up to the parents, up to the children. If they don't feel safe, then there are other options, or they can wear the mask, or they can get the vaccine. But to make it mandatory, I just don't. We didn't think it was right.
I just want you to know that you said that maybe someday I'll be in that veterans home, and my wife replied soon. So,
oh man, that's hilarious.
If you could get me the address or something.
Well, you're looking for about 2 years till completion, so you have to put up with them for a little longer. I apologize. I'm a legislator. I'm not a miracle maker, but
I don't know if I'll make it 2 years, but okay. $70 million for border security and National Guard deployment. I'm assuming National Guard at the border.
Correct. I went to the border about 2 months ago, and I just wanted to see what was happening because, the media. I know you're the media, but sometimes,
take it easy on the
sometimes you can't. You don't know if they're cut the mic. Sometimes they're not telling the full story. So I want to go down there and check. And I met with Sheriff Daniels. He's down there in Cochise County on the border. And it's one of those things where you see it in person, and it really hits you on what's really happening. And they have a lot of sensors down there, a lot of cameras on the border, a lot of hidden cameras, actually. They literally have them like hidden in the cactus and bush. It's unbelievable, the system they have. And he's showing me photos of these people coming across, and I have it on my Facebook page. I mean, and these guys are. I mean, don't get me wrong, women and children are coming. I mean, there's no lie to that. But you also have a whole other group of people that are fully camoed, armed. I mean, assault rifles. You see the drug packs on their back, and they're coming across. He's saying, these type of groups are coming across like 10, 20 a day, and they're all just drug runners. Believe it or not, they're catching marijuana on these guys. You would think it's legal. Why? But he said it's still cheaper than what they're getting at these dispensaries. Majority is fentanyl. Huge. He's about 70% is fentanyl.
I was reading this morning that has now surpassed meth in our county as the biggest problem.
The biggest problem. And so their problem down there, they said, was, so what happened when you had the surge come in January. Well, I mean, it's been going on for a while, but in January, this huge surge. Border Patrol was dispersed to Texas, California, and they were literally babysitting because you had a lot of children coming across. Didn't have enough manpower. So when I went down there, all the checkpoints were unmanned. Nobody was even at the checkpoints anymore. The ones that were about 60 miles in from the border. All the blimps were down, and so the sheriff is really doing their own. They're manning the entire border. And he's like, I don't have the people. I can't do it because there's sections that are open, like wide open. You have the wall, but they stopped production. So when we got there, they were shipping the materials out on semis because when Biden became president, they stopped it. So they're moving the materials out. Well, the issue is now the sheriff is trying to cover this whole huge open area.
The sheriff, not Border Patrol.
Not the Border Patrol, because the Border Patrol's not there. And he says, we can't do it. When I was there, his phone went off about 70 times in the 1 hour I was there. And that 70 times, those dings, are every time a sensor catches somebody moving across the border. And he's like, I don't have the people. We catch 10% of what comes across. The rest we can't stop. And so this is why that bill came through and the money in the National Guard, because we said, okay, if Border Patrol spread too thin, we need to send help. And this is why it was funny, actually, because that day I sent those photos, and they're crazy photos if you go online, and I sent it to Senator Borelli. I said, something needs to happen now. Like, this is unacceptable that this is happening, because, like I said, it's not just – and I'm going to tell a quick story after I'm done with this. But so he sent those to the governor. Governor saw them, and then I think it was in like 3 or 4 days. He's like, "We're sending the National Guard. We got the money there now to make sure they're there for a long time." And that just gives relief to the sheriff. So the sheriff has to look at the cameras and be on the border. It's impossible.
Yeah, so not only are you trying to take care of border security, but you also need security for the overwhelmed and understaffed first responders
right.
that are down there.
Yeah, absolutely right. In 2 situations I want to talk about really quickly, and then we can go on. But one was, and this is when it got really real for the sheriffs, is when they got contacted by the feds, and they said, "We want to give you a warning. There's a bounty on the head of one of your sheriffs." And he said, "Well, what's going on?" He goes, "Well, something happened on the border, on the Mexico side, with our guys and the cartel. They want retaliation. The guys are on their way now. We don't know where they're at." And so imagine that now, where you're talking about. I mean, that to me is like an act of war. You're telling a guy is coming out to kill a sheriff. So they were scrambling. I mean, they were trying to find this guy. They were looking there, but they didn't have the manpower. So they still never found him. They just, he's somewhere here in the U.S. They don't know where. But that is why it's so important. Like, I understand, like, you have people escaping communism, escaping these countries. They're coming to the U.S. for a better life. But you have bad people coming too, and those are the ones you have to stop. And the story I'm going to share real quick, the last one on this, is you had a Border Patrol agent come back, and he was in Texas, and this little girl was brought over, had no voice, lost her voice completely, and he went to the doctor and said, what's wrong with her? Why was she speaking? And they did the test, and they figured out the entire journey over. I think she was 9 or 10. She's been raped the whole time by the coyotes, the smugglers. And this is why my bill 2889 will be expanded next year, because that needs to stop. The fact that you have smugglers that have no care of prosecution. You saw photos. They're dropping babies over the wall and just leaving them and just. They have no resistance. When we went there, we were looking at the border, and you had the cartel coming with trucks, and you know what their job was? To pick up ladders. I mean, they're not even stopping any of this stuff. They're trying to stop it maybe interior when they're coming from Central America, but at the border, there's no help. So for me, it's a matter of security at this point. When you have children being raped by these smugglers, you have these drugs coming across that are killing Americans. We need to make sure that if we're going to have people come across, they come across the right way, and if they're seeking asylum. But these other situations with drugs and smuggling, we need to protect that border. And it's not just Mexico. You have Russians, Chinese, Iranians. I mean, you have people from all over the world coming through here because they know it's open.
Yeah. Well, when we got big gaps like that, I guess
it's a problem. It's a problem.
A couple things real quick.
Yeah.
Raises for DPS, correctional officers, prison guards, probation officers, state court employees, firefighters, etc.
Yeah, long time coming. Those guys, they've been needing a raise for a long time. They protect our streets late at night. I can't imagine what they go through. Police officers, especially DPS. I mean, they're on our roads at 2, 3 in the morning when that fatality happens, and so it's long overdue, and I'm happy to see those guys are all protected.
The prison guards and probation officers are around bad people already. So,
right.
It's not like there's a question.
Yeah, absolutely right.
$32 vehicle licensing tax fee on your vehicle now fully repealed.
Finally gone.
$12 million. We did that already. We'll finish the forensic audit. All right. Now,
tax.
I have been a big fan of yours
I know.
for a long time.
Hey, I knew it was coming.
And from the day that you hit the stage to do your here's why you should elect me thing.
Right.
And I almost always agree with you until today.
That's okay. Something be wrong. Your wife, this is why your wife is concerned. Because you were agreeing with me so much. She's like, you don't agree with me sick. With half the time.
You know what? I try to educate myself. And so maybe you can help me with this.
Yeah.
Proposition 208
right.
Was voted in by the people. It was a citizen initiative. It was so it was put together by citizens. They got the signatures. It got on the ballot. It passed the ballot. That was the one that was going to tax those making over $250,000 per individual or $500,000 per couple. Anything above those limits, they were going to get an additional 4.5% tax on that, and that was all going to go into this education fund for the state.
Right.
Now, so we passed it.
Correct.
Yeah,
51
Barely.
to 49. Yeah,
Barely.
48, right. 48.
I'll give you the barely, but
I know. It passed, though.
it
It passed.
If you win your basketball, if the Bucks win tonight
Yeah,
by
that's
a
right.
point, it's a.
Oh, don't say that.
Oh, that's right.
Don't say that. The Suns are going to win. Go ahead.
So, the governor had fought against it, sent it to court, hoping to win. It's still in court. On one, they shot down a couple points, but one is still active and kicking. Then he did his budget, or you guys did the budget.
Right.
The budget says that they are going to do a flat tax for all income levels, not to begin with, but over the next couple of years it's going to get there,
Right.
where it's at 2.5% for everybody.
Flat tax, right.
So that 2.5% flat tax for everybody takes away that whole Proposition 208. Does it not?
No. And I'll tell you why.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Now, I'll explain the deal. So, to credit Governor Ducey, he did say since day one when he ran, he wanted the income tax rate in Arizona to be 0.
100%.
Right.
He's
like, I want it to be drop it down
right.
to where it's 0 at some point. So, 2 years ago, we dropped one bracket completely. We tried to collapse a few numbers. And then this year, our plan was always to do that again, right? Because his goal is 0. And the agreement came down to 2.5, which was what everybody came down to. Okay, next year it'll drop to 2 brackets and then eventually 2.5 across the board. But if you make more than 250, you're still getting charged 4.5%. So there's
on the part that's over 250. So 250.
So if you're making
down,
250 down, you're paying 2.5 across the board, which those weren't affected by Prop 208 anyway, right? I mean, no matter what, they weren't paying towards that. It was just the people making over 250 or 500. Now it's if you make 250 or more, you're getting 4.5, where everybody else is getting 2.5. So it's not that he undercut 208. His goal was always to make it 0%, and 208 would always stand. So 208 is still standing. It's just that it's going to be 2.5 for everybody else, 4.5 for those making over 250.
All right, but it was supposed to be 4.5 on top of the
Already
whatever the
taxed.
I think they were maxed at 3.5.
Correct.
before.
But to the credit of this, though, is the fact that we've always been trying to go to 0. Always.
Okay.
So, I mean, at some point,
So it's
that was going to
basically
happen.
be at 0 if it wasn't for the 208.
Correct. So that extra money is still going to be charged to these individuals. It's just that it won't be 2.5 and it won't be 8.9, which it would have been if we didn't touch any bracket. It would have been in the 8, which that is the part that's it's concerning though also, right? Because you have to remember, how do you keep these people, these business owners, because a lot of them that are making 250 or more.
If you're going to go into
No, hold on.
trickle down.
No, not trickle down.
Okay.
No. I'm saying is, how do you keep them in Arizona when Nevada's at 0, Utah's at 4, New Mexico's 4, Washington's at 0, Texas 0. I'm not saying. I'm talking about. You have to make sure you keep them here.
Yeah.
So if the tax starts getting too high, so if we get to like 9-10%, we're top 8 in the country, then they start leaving for Utah, Nevada, these other states that are neighboring.
Right.
So we said, how do we keep them here without impacting 208? And this was, we knew we were going to 0, so we said, okay, let's go to 2.5, and then they're still going to be at that 4.5 higher than anybody else. That still stays. So money is going to be there. It's just not going to be at the 9, which was going to be all the rest of that for the general fund money.
Okay.
So if that makes sense.
It does make sense.
Yeah.
Politician, though, I don't know if I can.
But I mean,
my problem with it isn't that this. My problem with it was, it was twofold. One, we know that we're already per pupil. We are already 49th in the country in funding per pupil.
Right.
I know you guys gave out $12 billion, but it's not sustainable because $5 million of that was part of
$6 billion is
$6
federal.
billion was federal. So that's going to go away. They can't hire more people because they won't be able to sustain it next year. So my concern was the teachers being paid, but it was also, on top of that, the 208 money, which was our vote.
Sure.
And we talked about voter integrity and all that, and so that was my concern. I'm glad that you explained it that way.
Yeah, and at least we know that, at least people that are supportive of 208, at least you know that if we brought it to 0, right, across the board without 208, then there would be nothing. At least that there's still going to be something, right?
Yeah.
There's still going to be charged 4.5%. So to me, it's a win-win. Is where that's still going to be protected, but we're still not going to lose them to other states, neighboring
business.
Right, because businesses
that are here and businesses that
are
we're
coming
trying to attract.
because we're trying to, like I said, we're trying to get to the zero. We are, if we can do it, if we have the money to do it. That's our goal. It's always been the goal. But at the same time, you still got to protect the 208, whether you agree with it or not. I mean, for me, and I tell people all the time that are education supporters, because they say, because people realize that we collect tax revenue, right? And then it comes to the state, and then we divvy it out,
right.
And then they figure out where they want it. School districts figure it out. I tell people now, with this tax cut that you're getting, whether even if it's $50, $100 at that, whatever it is, with the flat tax, there's nothing better than giving that money straight to your district, right? In my opinion, I think if you have that extra money, you want to support education, write a check to your local school district, because at least you have control where it's going. We had situations where the feds gave billions of dollars to the state, and it was sitting in an account at the education department, like without 3-4 months, just sitting there, just nobody spending it. And it's when you have schools saying we're going to lay off teachers, that money. This is a problem with government, right? Bureaucracy is they like to sit on money, and they like to where I say local control is best, in my opinion. I tell people, if you're going to get money back from this tax cut that we're giving, here's your opportunity. Make it work towards something locally. I mean, that's the fastest way it gets to where you need to, and you have personal control over where it goes.
And the people that are most involved with the day-to-day problems are the ones that are dispersing.
Absolutely right. Because, I had a stat here where it was, the $1.5 billion that is coming from the feds. Oh, no, excuse me, $7 billion. I apologize. They're using like a tenth of that for administrative costs. To just distribute this money.
Yeah.
So it's like
an awful lot.
It's a lot of money to be used just to give money out. Like that's the part that just I can't stand with politics. Is just how much wasteful spending happens. But
there is a lot. That's
I
for
know.
Sure. I think that pretty much covers everything. I think the questions, our raises were frozen this year. We went to sign for the. I'm not sure what that means.
So I can answer that one. If your raises are frozen, that's coming from the school district.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, Ben's a teacher. Ben, are you a teacher?
Or teacher? Oh, that's a good question. It sounds like school year.
Yeah, when we went to re-sign for the. Oh, okay. So as a educator, his raises were frozen this year when we went to re-sign for the 2021-2022 school year. That is a school district thing.
But just so you know, Zoni, you can ask this question to the school district: is the money is there, right? I mean, this is what happened when I think Kathy Hoffman was holding on to $5 billion, I believe, or I can't remember the number. Mm-hmm. She was holding on to money, and we were hearing about school districts freezing raises because they were unsure of the COVID situation. Were they going to get less funding? The funding's there. The question is whether they're going to distribute it or not. And I think a lot of districts were worried because because it's true, thousands of students have not come back, like that left during COVID. They've turned to homeschool or. And we all know it's a per pupil funding is how things work in the school district. So a lot of school districts are nervous because they're like, are we going to lose half our students? Are we not going to get the funding? Do we need to fire teachers, hold pay rate? I think once everything clears up, I think those raises will come back because between the influx of $6 billion from the feds, there's no reason why these teachers should not be getting their raises.
Ben's in transportation, so I'm assuming he's a bus driver in one of the school districts. Again, that falls under the same thing. I know some of the Proposition 208 money was designated for teachers, but another was for support staff transportation.
That's right.
So we'll see what happens with that. But outside of that, I think each of the school districts right now are sitting on healthy chunks of money trying to figure out what they're going to do with it.
A lot of money.
So you need to talk to your school district. They're probably waiting to see, from what I've seen, they're waiting to see what exactly that money is going to be so they don't overextend themselves.
Absolutely.
My wife would also like to know, and I think I can answer this, do you like being a politician?
Parts of it I love, parts of it I don't. I mean, I think my favorite part is that I represent my district that I was born in, right? Being born and raised here. I love that I'm having an impact on the place where I grew up. I can come here and speak to you every day, or not every day, but I mean,
Good, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, but my constituents, I mean, I have that connection because I'm from here. Like, there's nothing like that where I can get a call from a constituent and say, "Hey, here's a problem. Can you help fix it?" I feel like when you get to D.C., that kind of goes away. I mean, it kind of gets. I mean, it's so hard to get anything. But like, I look at these bills that I was able to get across the sexual molestation bill, the $46 million for the Highway 95. in Congress, like, good luck getting that across the finish line. It's just too difficult. So I love the fact that I am in a position that I'm able to help my district. I mean, 95 hasn't been done in 20 years. The fact that I was able to do that, like that, it makes me more excited than anything that rural Arizona is on the map and we're getting things done for our district.
And I can tell you that like we may have covered earlier, I don't agree with you on everything.
Right.
But I just love the passion from the day that you were up at that debate and stating how you feel about things all the way through your first year and the things that you've got taken care of this year, and the way that you and Senator Borelli and Regina Cobb have represented our rural area up against the great state of Maricopa. I think that's awesome.
It's been a great team. I mean, unfortunately, Gina's termed out next year, so we have an open seat. Which means I have an open seat, and technically, so I'll be running again. And but I just hope we get somebody. Hopefully, I can get reelected, and I hope somebody else that comes on, they understand that teamwork, because this is the only way we've been able to get so much done is because us three have stuck together. We said, look, we don't agree on everything. Even amongst us three, we don't. We don't vote the same on some things, but we all respect each other and we all talk to each other. Like, that's the most important. And that hasn't always been there all the time.
Yeah, that's a little different than right before you got on there, right? Wasn't there
just a little
a problem with the third wheel?
Third wheel.
All right, so you are currently gathering signatures to get on the 2022 ballot. You can go to your Facebook page.
Which is Leo for AZ House. So Facebook-Leo for AZ House. And I also have them amongst certain at the Republican headquarters and some other businesses around town. And then the picnic will be on August 7th in the Wallapies. So people are welcome to go to that and listen to your candidates. I mean, you have a lot of races happening this next cycle. You're going to have governor, treasurer, secretary of state, one seat in the House. I mean, you have a lot of things going on.
A lot of important spots.
Sure. Gina's actually jumping to the state treasurer, so she'll be running for that.
Really? Right on. Good.
So,
well, she's been a big asset for us.
She has, especially with our water and same with Sunny. So I appreciate everyone's support, and like I said, I love that. People told me before I came on here, they're like, you're gonna probably get some tough questions, but I personally, I love it. I love that you don't always agree, and people, because if that was happening, there's a problem in my opinion, right? I mean, I want people to bring up things, because there's times when I don't see the whole picture from somebody's point of view, and then that opens my mind to something else, which I love that, because that needs to happen for somebody to be successful in politics.
And I think a lot of times we just look at what that letter is after their name and go,
right,
oh, they're great, or oh, they stink. So I think that having you in here and discussing these things and here inside, people would have a hard time arguing against the things that you've done. So I appreciate
John,
it.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And hopefully you'll join us tomorrow morning at 7:30 for the Daily Dose. And we also, tomorrow at 4 o'clock, we have the new commander of the VFW in town. She's talking about an event that she has coming up for Purple Heart recipients. So please join us tomorrow at 4 o'clock, and we will see you later. Take care.
Don't forget PM preview too, 3:45.